It is Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time in the United States. And we're just going to wait 30 seconds, a minute, and see who's joined us. Hey, Eddie, welcome. I'm waiting just about 30 seconds, a minute, and then we'll get started. Good to have you on. Tonight we're going to get into a little juicier topic about developing a deeper connection with our body. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, please do a shout out. Let me know you're there. I have a chat window up with my little system here so I can see you if you say hello. And in Instagram, I got another little way we're filming so I can see you when you join. So yeah, last week I talked about 5 key areas to help you live a more empowered and soul-connected experience. I called it 5 hacks. And the last one of those hacks was, part of it was about the body. So we are going to jump into this talk today on how you can live a more consciously connected experience with your body, how you can create that. And what does it mean? I'm going to share you my experience. Hey, I see somebody is on YouTube or Facebook. I can't tell from my little chat window, but I'd love for you to shout out, say hi so I can see you. So yeah, we're gonna talk about, particularly from my experience, how to develop this deeper connection with your physical body. I think it's something, some people come into this experience with a little deeper connection than others. And if you're like me as an empath and a sensitive person, hey Terry, good to have you on, then the body vessel, it's so important to develop a deeper relationship to it. It's important for everybody, but if you're sensitive and your senses are heightened and you have that strong empath awakened within you, you're feeling so much more than most people are aware of, and your body is part of the receptor, the antenna for all of that. So it's so important to develop this more conscious connection with your body in a much deeper way than we're going to talk about tonight. Than just the stuff that was everybody. I mean, we all got a body. I mean, we take care of its basic needs for the most part. I think most of us do, and some of us don't. So we're not going to get too much into basic needs. We're going to go into a little bit deeper than that. So let's kick this off. So this week is about the body. Next week is about the mind. And of course they work hand in hand, but we're going to separate them out just a little bit because we can. And from years of yoga practice and my own experience with this, I've learned so much about, on my journey, how I had been disconnected from my body and how it created a much more challenging life experiences. And so in the yogic lineages, we learn that, and don't ever believe me, have your own experience, but I've experienced this deep, profound connection and awareness of my body and mind and how I can relate to them on a day-to-day basis differently than I used to before I began regular spiritual practice and exploration into beyond the surface level of things, beyond just the tangible. And because of being a sensitive person and empath, it's given me actually, you can look at this different ways. in order to live a life that's empowered and thriving, I've chosen, because it's almost like I don't know what I would do if I haven't taken this time and continue to learn and grow and understand my body and mind, because there's so many things going on as a sensitive person. So how do we do this? Well, first I wanted to take some time just to give you some framework as to why this topic is so important to me, and where kind of my journey started. And, you know, when our journeys kind of start as a young one, for me, being highly sensitive, I didn't really understand. I didn't have a model, a family person or friends, or a figure that I could model or understand some of these deeper truths. So it's taken many years of experiences to, learn to dive deeper into this and understand myself and continue to grow. So when I was little, I knew, probably around the age of 5, that, my attraction was different than what appeared from my peers or anyone else that I knew in the world. Living in the South, growing up in the South, being a gay person, didn't have those words to it when I was young. But my body was attracted. There was an attraction. There was a physical, energetic, emotional, and mental attraction to the same sex. So guess what happens when there's no one in your life that can affirm that for you, and you automatically create a belief system. So this is just an example, because everyone has belief systems. So I'm going to use mine to share my story, but as we go along today, I'm going to invite you to kind of explore some of yours, and maybe this talk may open up for you a way to look at some of yours a little deeper. So here I enter this world around other people and hear other boys teasing about, fag and all kinds of things. And so I was so sensitive to that, right? Because my self-worth was attached, and I didn't have any person to model that was okay. So I was on my own journey. So my body begins to, and my mind begins to create there's a disconnect, because my emotions weren't acceptable. What I felt inside was not validated on the outside. So I had to disconnect, which became a traumatic experience. And we're going to use some different words today, but trauma is basically unresolved emotion, and those emotions that aren't allowed in the physical body get pushed away and ejected, and until that's reharmonized, reintegrated, that trauma still is going on over and over and over again. And those belief systems are just running in the mind and the body. So one way that manifested for me in my daily life was, I was so heightened sensitive, my body, that I was always turning around, like reacting to situations as if my body was trying to protect itself, because I didn't feel safe and secure. So I developed this super hypersensitivity to always looking at people in the eyes, and checking. I had people many times, even just as a joke, family members try to come up and surprise me, and my body would always it would flip around and it was not conscious for me at all. It just happened, and catch them before they could ever scare me or shock me. So it's interesting how our bodies take on so many layers and ways to protect us when we don't feel that we didn't learn or come in with that natural sense of protection. So that is a huge deal. And also, our voice Voice is a big one. So all these disconnects happened when I was really young, and maybe you had some disconnects. Maybe you could realize, maybe a parent you, you didn't have a connection with, or were shamed, or had some of that kind of thing. So, for example, there's a lot of things that can get away. We're going to go through a list here. So, first of all, is beliefs. So, our belief systems. I invite you for just a second, if you could recall a time or place in your past when you can remember where your body was no longer like pure, where you felt shame around your body. Can you remember a place? Like, just take a breath and see if you can take yourself to a place, or the first memory that comes up, where you felt shame around your body. Maybe you always felt that. I don't recall, not personally, I always remember relating to my body and having that feeling of shame around situations. So, oh my gosh, if we're not conscious of these things and they're running in the background, wow, there's a lot of patterns going on in the body. And, we're all on our own journey, but part of developing a more conscious connection with our body is looking at our beliefs and our feelings. So when we get to talking about our body, we're going to relate to the emotion versus the thought. And this is one piece that is really, really huge. So let's keep going on some little areas that can get in the way, and then we're going to go deep into how can we create a shift. So another one, so this body being an antenna, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's taking, I don't know if you've even ever thought about that, the brain, the nervous system, as this antenna that's sensing things. And if we have trauma or old patterns stored in there, our sensing is going to be, what was a good word for that? We're going to basically be projecting what we're sensing, we're going to react based on our trauma instead of our soul. So that's why we really want to work on developing this relationship to the body, so that we can, because in the yogic teachings and in all the spiritual work I've done, we're not our body. And through all the many hours of meditation, I've had that experience. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm this vast space. I'm this consciousness, this observing, witnessing that is all time and space, and it's an incredible experience. But you got to have your own for that. So if I'm not this body, but this body is running the show most of the time for many of us, right? Like, so on so many levels, our body vessel and our minds, as we'll talk about next week, it's running the show. So if we want to live an empowered life that's connected to our soul, we've got to understand what are all these beliefs and develop a relationship so that we know what's going on in there. So back to what gets in the way, right? So this antenna. Another thing, if our bodies have a lot of toxins going on, whether it's our diet or just emotions, toxic emotions that we take on and hold and identify ourselves as this way, that is like static in the lines. So our bodies just get filled up with all this energetic, emotional, and toxins. And because, especially when you're an empath, right, there's a part that's drawing energy, so that you're sensing, you're feeling, and your heart's powerful. It's this pump. So you're drawing energy, feeling this energy. So if all of this stuff is toxic with old beliefs that are drawing in not from the truth of your soul, but from beliefs that you've learned that aren't super in alignment with your more empowered self, then it's going to be a problem. So then on to, we talked about trauma a little bit, but when, our emotions literally run or take over our body and something happens, which is a lot of experiences that I had from those early traumatic times of being teased and not feeling safe within myself. So my body took that on, and I didn't know how. I didn't have the support early on to realize that it was okay for me to feel that shame, instead of, oh, that shame feels awful, so I'm going to push it away. I don't want to deal with it, which is what happened to me. So when I pushed away the shame, as a young person being teased and didn't deal with it, didn't have any tools to deal with it, there was an immediate trauma in my body, because it's no longer whole. It's no longer safe to feel the flow. We're not our emotions. They're one of my teachers calls them the senses of the soul. It's the sense that comes in to give us support. And that shame, for example, is when we're literally cut off from our soul, when we keep feeling that emotion. So if we go in and allow ourselves to feel and allow that emotion to move, woo, it's powerful stuff, y'all. So that's trauma. And many of us sensitive people, it doesn't take a lot to have trauma in our body. Tight muscles, all of those kind of things. So all that unresolved stuff. And for those of you like myself that are really into the energetics and understanding of the chakras and how this body is literally this vertical aligned body, our human and animal self from the heart down. So this is the area that holds a lot of human patterns, tribal patterns, animal patterns, addictive patterns, and guess what? Our sexual organs, our most intimate part of our bodies are in that space. So when we maybe, like for me, for example, I was never, my family grew up in we were very metaphysical, but we were really in our head space. So I didn't grow up with a real understanding or feeling of being human. I was like, I don't feel like I belong or relate to people that are doing human everyday things. So I didn't relate to my body, or especially my sexual self, my sexual organs. And so to me, there was so much shame built up in that connection. So you may, because look at what goes on in our commercials, on the news, on so many levels. There's opportunities for body shaming of all these pretty bodies everywhere, and your eyes take that in, your brain takes that in, and if in that moment when you see that, you take that into your subconscious, and it goes into your tissues of, oh, I'm not like that, I'm not worthy, that's the ideal, which is what's oftentimes being projected through the medias, then that gets kind of held as shame in your body, that if you don't have a body like that, then this body's not good, not acceptable. And many of us, like for me, we didn't talk about sex or sexuality in my family. It's so interesting because I wouldn't change anything. My growing up was so powerful in that we had this kind of where this polarity where I didn't have certain things, but by not having them, I understand them better. It's really cool. But I like to be really honest and authentic that, we didn't talk about sex growing up. I don't know about you. And so guess how I learned about it as a gay man? It was through online connecting with people, through porn and porn graphics. It was the only way. There was nobody around. And so there again was, when you see all these pictures, there's this perfectionism in all of that stuff. Your body's got to be like this in order to perform or, be okay. So holy shit, is a lot of body shame layering up. This is huge. So developing a more conscious connection to our bodies means that it's time to start breathing with our bodies, to notice how, when we go towards someone or some situation or something, and notice when my body, like, oh, I can't go over there, I feel uncomfortable, so that we can start to unlock these layers of deep shame and patterns in our body. There's some amazing experiences and work that I've done these last couple years that have given me a lot of other insights that I deeply want to share with you all, about how the body holds energy and holds, especially when you're an empath and you draw energy in, you draw collective shame, collective old toxic male energy or old toxic feminine energy in. It literally layers and stacks up in your body, and in these lower chakras where our patterns and our deep relationship with our body is, in the intimate ways. So it's so important when all of those patterns and deep emotions are repressed. Our body literally takes over and runs our life. And so, maybe for some of you, for me, my body was looking for love, that feeling of love, because inside was running layers of shame. I had a lot of inner anger from repression. So these deep layers were in there. And until I went in and started noticing how my body reacted in situations, and then going inside and connecting with the emotion and doing this deep integrative work, which, there's still a lot to do. And it's quite a fun process. Actually, it's turned into an adventure, which is why I love talking and sharing my process with you all, because it can be an adventure. It doesn't have to be, it can be kind of fun to learn and grow and deepen and understand how all these pieces work for you in your life and your connection with your body. So we want to train ourselves. We want to practice whatever kind of spiritual, daily, whatever. We've talked about this in other, you can go back and watch some of those. Creating a rhythm with yourself. Oftentimes the relationship, you can think about a relationship as a relay. How are you consciously throughout the day checking in with your body from the inside out? How it's feeling, where it's tight, how you're breathing, how when you're in situation it responds, or do you want to bolt? That's a good one. For me, when being in situations and my body from the old trauma, it had nothing to do with the situation other than maybe the people or the situation made me feel like I had many years before, or maybe even lifetimes, and not learned how to face my emotions around that energy. So another huge piece to this, because we're still talking about what gets in the way, is the natural rhythms and cycles. So for example, a moon cycle. Female bodies have this moon cycle. They actually have a flow Men's bodies don't have a flow, but it's to after doing yoga practices and meditation consistently for years and getting deeper within myself, I've learned that, oh my gosh, I clearly have a moon cycle as well. Men's bodies, it's just different, but it's so powerful. Gosh, there's so much to share in all this, but we're we're gonna just kind of ramp towards. So how do you create this based on all of these? What gets in the way? Um, so these cycles, when you understand certain cycles that your body brings up and maybe feels like, for me, I'll give you an example with the moon cycles. On new moons, I feel blank. My mind's blank. My body just feels open, relaxed, and ready. If I go to a new moon and it's not like that, then I'm holding on deeply to something. In my psyche, emotionally, there's something I'm holding on to. When I get to the full moons, it's much more intense. I have a lot of energy. I'm action oriented more and passionate about creating and manifesting in my experience. So that's another thing that when you understand that, you can go with it and don't have to say, oh, I feel, like on a new moon, for example, oh, I just feel awful, or I have no creativity in the new moon. Well, that's a good thing. It's given us an opportunity to reset, open from a blank slate. We have these moon cycles that give us these powerful manifest and creative cycles. So how do I know that? It's from body awareness, noticing how my body reacts to the cycles. For some people, you can even, well, let's go ahead and go into that. So how might you develop a deeper relationship with how your body feels and responds to different cycles? Well, one way is you could start journaling. And for me, I've done some of the journaling. You can also just, like, I have a moon cycle calendar that I check on my phone. And sometimes when I really first started getting into this, I would check it regularly and just kind of get an idea of where throughout the moon process and go, oh wow, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. What if I do this? What if I do that? There's a lot of experimentation, but it creates a lot of conscious awareness with what's going on in the body. I also learned, if you're one that has a lot of sexual energy that needs to be released or moved, this is huge, because you can learn when you're around other people or situations how that can magnetize or amplify your sexual energy. I have played with and explored, like, taking these sadhana practices in yoga where I'll meditate and do this every day for lots of times. I'm not saying you have to do this, but I'm just saying these are just things that have helped me see how deeply important this body consciousness and connection really is. So I've done these practices, and it's put me so much in touch with the soul energy that it's allowed me to go, oh wow, my body is running the show right now. It's needing sex, it's desiring sex at this point. And I found that a typical cycle is like 30 days. It follows the moon. For some people that may be different. And it also is different with when you're around, like I was saying, when you're around other people. So observing and stepping back. So from creating that observer consciousness, you can observe your body and what it's doing instead of absorbed and identified just as your body, and your body then can take you over, and then you don't know what's you and what's not you. So huge stuff, and I so invite you to play with it. So let's keep going. So the other one was developing a mindfulness practice, which we kind of hit on a little bit. Just that mindfulness of how am I feeling, where in my body, is there pain, where is it, asking it, creating a dialogue or a relay, where, in breath, and you'll hear me on every one of these empowering podcasts always talk about breath, because the breath is our way in. It's our way to calm our mind and go inside so that you can actually more deeply connect with the subtler vibrations. And you need this subtle awareness, not in your own way. You don't need it like mine or someone else's. You need it just in the way that you unfold it. But it takes practice. No matter what, it's going to take practice to keep diving and developing these deeper levels. But in doing so, it's going to allow you to be this empowered empath. The empath is so needed on the planet. We all need to wake up our empath so we can feel our truth and feel how when we do something, it immediately comes back to us. That's one thing that's crazy. If I do something that's not beneficial, it immediately, I feel it. And so we know a lot of leadership out in the world that they have none of that open. There's like the empath part's closed. So they don't even, when they do something that's maybe not loving or inclusive, they don't even feel it. It's completely blocked. But when you're open and empathic, you immediately feel, oh my gosh, I'm closing off someone or saying something negative about someone, when I could be open and inclusive and non-judgmental. And when its heart stays clear and you're connected and you feel it. So that's another way, using the body, right? Like, just your body will always tell you when you're in aligned with your soul or not. But you've got to develop your own rhythm and develop this mindfulness. Another thing that's tremendously helped me is my voice. Your voice will always tell you how embodied or out of your body you are. It is like the most incredible litmus test. I've taken singing classes and chanted a lot, and it's just amazing. If you have the opportunity, and it's not about how good you can sing or talk or whatever, it's about just creating this awareness of how sound sounds in your body when you're embodied, and how sound sounds in your body when you're out of your body or you're in your head. Your voice is in a totally different space and resonates in your body in a different place. So all of these things can help you stay connected to your soul. So your soul's, it gets like little nuggets that give your mind reminders. Oh wait, my voice, listen to my voice. I feel it in my head. Wait, let's get in, let's come back, let's settle and feel your voice shift. So many ways, but the voice is an instantaneous litmus test. And if you start noticing other people or observing, you can find it real quick with other people that are really in their head a lot. They'll either talk loud or talk in their head voice. It's up there. Check it out. Play with it with yourself. Let's see. There's another one. Oh yeah. So the voice, and then like just the singing, the dance, the flow. get into the flow. Like feel how your body feels when you're in the flow. Like dance is a flow. And if you get used to that feeling, you know when you're out of it. Our second chakra, the orange, which is why I wear orange today, because so many of us in this world, we get in our heads and we get out of the flow. That flow, delicious, yummy, it has that healing, sexual, sensual, but it's so healthy and yummy that when we kind of disconnect from that in our body, and that doesn't mean that you have to have sex when you feel sensual and loving. You just feel yummy, and you bring yumminess to the and heart and full-bodied presence into situations versus. So that's how shame gets in there. Like we have body shame if we don't feel we can be yummy in a situation, and it's okay. But it's all about awareness, right? We want to be aware of where there's restriction, where there's clothes within our body. You can feel the restriction, the tight. And so for me, the pelvis, working, allowing myself to explore my body, explore my pelvis, explore my sexual organs, explore all of these things so that I can face shame and where I think I'm ugly and filthy and blah, 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 which has been so much. I've also taken sacred intimacy classes sitting across from another person, naked as a mirror to help, face that part of myself. Amazing work, by the way. So let's keep going. So pleasure. So that leads right into pleasure. How many of you out there, whenever you're watching this, feel that it's okay to totally and completely allow pleasure into your life? That your body, it's okay to touch your body in all areas and that you can enjoy the pleasure. If you do that, you put your hands on your body, put your hands on your genitals or whatever, and you feel, oh no, I shouldn't be doing this, or it brings up like tight, you immediately get tight. Well, guess what? It just means that there's unresolved emotion there, that there's shame or trauma, sexual trauma, sexual shame, and it's okay. But the whole purpose in this talk is that we just shine a light on it. That's all. I'm 44 now, and it's taken these 44 years just continuously working, because my vision in this life, my soul's like, I want to feel free from all of this bondage that I've felt. So in order to do that, it takes shining a light in all the dark crevices, literally and figuratively. Let's keep going. And just letting ourselves enjoy things in moderation. Sometimes we have a craving. Who craves a pizza, craves sex, crave this, crave that, right? And learning for ourselves what it feels like to go overboard and not to go over, or to restrict. Because restriction is just restriction that isn't conscious is not helpful either. When we are conscious and we know if we have too much sex, then this happens, or if I eat too much, this is going to happen. My mind's foggy. So is that something that I want to deal with in the other areas of my life? If I have sex too much, I get addicted, or I can't work. I'm too stuck in that needing of pleasure, or it's all I think about. It's those kind of things that we have to figure out on our own and just be honest with ourselves. Because if you're at all like me as a highly sensitive person, and you've had to deal with shame and those deep, dark emotions, depression, and those kind of things from being disconnected from your soul and your body at the same time, and it's hard. It really can be challenging, but by doing the work, by taking time to explore and being open to exploring all of these deep and dark parts, just little bit by little bit, we can bring the light to it and enjoy our bodies, enjoy the pleasure from sex, enjoy the pleasure from eating, but also know and have the conscious awareness when it's too much. And it's practice. When you've had the trauma and you've had the shame, and for me when I was young, like not feeling like love, pleasure, I up into my 20s, I was seeking love and pleasure through food, and for a window of time exploring sex and figuring that out, and it became a way of, getting pleasure, but it was limited pleasure. It didn't last. It wasn't soul level of pleasure. And that's another piece, there's no judgment in any way, but when you learn what's the right balance for you, then you can have this deeper conscious connection with your body, and doing the mindfulness, the breath, the yoga, the meditation, the qigong, the walking in nature, the being in nature. These things can help you little by little develop this deeper experience with your body. The last thing was we'll just take like 2 to 3 minutes, if you like to join me, to just find a comfortable place to sit and just close your eyes for a minute. We're just going to connect with our breath. Invite you to breathe through the nose, just letting that air rush in through the nose, filling the belly, filling the chest, all the way up to those collarbones, and then exhale, letting that go, bringing that belly back towards the spine last. Just take a couple more breaths. And as you settle into your breath for just a moment, just invite you just to feel into your heart, feel into your body. Invite you to ask your body, is there anything that you'd like for me to know or be aware of right now? Whatever's the top of the list is all that you need to think about. The layers of the onion will unfold themselves as the time is right. And just listen. Are you drawn to some place in your body by asking that question? What is it? Precious body, what is it that you would like for me to know or connect with or be aware of or focus in on right now? And is there a situation or a time or place or a feeling or emotion that comes up around the answer to that first question of what would you like for me to know or see right now? Just keeping that connection with your breath. And if you feel an emotion, I invite you to just imagine that it's safe for you to feel. If you're kind of afraid or ashamed of feeling, could I feel? And what would that feeling look like or feel like? Could I allow that feeling just to be there? Could I allow myself to embrace that feeling You're not your feelings, but your feelings are a different dimension of your thoughts, a very tribal, dense, embodied dimension of your thoughts. And if you are resistant to feel, just imagine that opening your heart, opening your mind, opening your body, just to let that full feeling have its space. You don't have to hold on to it, but just allow it to move through and embrace it and feel it completely. And while you're doing this, keep breathing, because the breath is what allows this to not stay put, allows and supports it to move where we've held it away, held on to pushing that away. So just a couple more breaths and just let yourself just feel. Just thank the emotion for being there. Invite that part of you that may have been fragmented away, just inviting it back. If that was your experience. And taking one more deep inhale and exhale. And just letting it go. Opening your eyes when you're ready. And just realizing that it's pretty simple practice to start developing a deeper connection like that. Just listening to your breath, feeling your breath, keep your breath going, that balanced in and out, and then ask yourself the question, what is it my body would like for me to know right now? Let it take you, let it show you, let it, through feeling whatever it is, something popping in your mind, and then feel deeply, allow the feeling to come in, the sensation, so that you can see how those things are related. It will show you one step at a time. You got to take what comes up first, even if it's really uncomfortable. You take what comes up first and keep working it little by little. Well, it was great talking with you all and having this experience tonight. I went quite a bit longer than I usually go, but I tend to just flow with these things. And I think we're going to do some more healing session type stuff like this in the future, integrating, weaving some different things, talks and experiences. And next week we'll be focusing on the mind part instead of the body. And until then, have a blessed week. Please, love for you to post and reach out. Send me a message if you have any questions about this, would like any coaching or support specifically on your journey. And if you'd like to join my private Facebook group, which is just in its inception, you can find the link either on my website. I need to write down the name so I can tell you all, because you could probably search it on Facebook. But you can go to my website, michaellott.com, click on the community page, and there's a link in there that you can click on. Or if you're on Instagram, click on the little link in my bio, and in the flow page with all the links, you'll see private Facebook group, and you can join, and I'll let you in, and we're just getting started, but there'll be more deeper conversations going on in there as it grows. Have a blessed rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Much love.